Okay, I'm gonna move this over a little bit. Well, getting marks on your face. Our speaker tonight is Juda Meyer. And I'm going to try to speak loudly because evidently our microphone is not working well. So, I'll try to speak out. Juda Meyer had a very traumatic conception. Her mother was gang raped, and out of that gang rape, she became pregnant, and she decided that she wanted to give her child life. She did not want to have an abortion. And there were people who put pressure on her to have an abortion. As you know, that's the way the world is today. And I'm not gonna take a lot of time introducing her. If you're on our email list, her bio is on the email that I sent out. But she is the founder of Choices for Life, pro-life ministry, an outreach to share her encouragement to women to provide life without exceptions. So Juda is an international speaker. She's a singer, a songwriter, an author, an artist, a wife, mother, and grandmother. And so I'm going to let her share her story. She is a born-again believer. She is a lover of God and a lover of people. So Juda, would you help me welcome Juda?
I have never ever been asked to speak louder, but just in case, if you can't hear me back there, just let me know and I'll crank up the volume as much as I can. I want to say thank you very, very much for coming out and lending me your ears. What I desperately want is that you would give me your heart. Because it's with the heart that we're going to do actions. Because if you don't feel like it, chances are you won't. And so, thank you so much. Thank you, Betty. I am honored to be here because life is a privilege. We're all here now because somebody gave us the privilege to be here. And had it not been for a mother who carried us, maybe to term, maybe prematurely, however amount of time it was, we're now here with all the choices that we can think of. My mother was standing on walking down a street, and at a street corner, she had just come from watching a movie. The people that she worked for, she was a nanny, they were drunk and they couldn't pick her up. So she started walking home. And there were about 8 guys on a street corner, up to no good, like 19, 20 years old. And when they saw her walking, they took advantage of her, left her for dead. And she just laid there for, I don't know, she couldn't even remember how long. She was just so afraid to move. Finally, when she got up enough courage to get up, she went back to the nanny, to the employers. She packed up and she went back to her home in Jackson, Mississippi, where her parents were. This was in St. Louis, Missouri. So she gets back home. She doesn't tell anybody, and that's typical. When somebody is raped, they feel horrible. It's like everything nasty, vile, anything that you can think of comes onto the woman, and it's not the woman's fault. But the woman now feels like she wants to die. Then she becomes pregnant. 3 months later, she realizes, I'm pregnant. Now, typically when I'm helping women, It's the family, it's the police officer, it's the doctor who says, "You need to get rid of this. You need to get rid of it." My mother was told, "I can take care of it." My mom was very strong, and I have a little bit of her in me, because she told that doctor, she looked him in the eyes and she said, "You will not get rid of it, because it is my baby. My baby." And for people who are thinking that you're being compassionate by getting rid of that baby, that's not compassion. The mother needs you to help her, because that baby belongs to her. You know, women will say, "Oh, it's the right of the woman to have an abortion because that baby doesn't belong to the man," right? Except in cases of rape. And then everybody gives the baby to the rapist. Why? It's her baby. And the worst thing you can do is to get rid of the evidence. My DNA proves that certain amount, whoever it was, she didn't report it, but it proves, obviously, that there's a man involved, because you cannot have a woman just giving birth. There's a male always involved. And so my DNA says that 2 people were involved. But most of the time, the police will say, "If you want that baby, you must have wanted it." Meaning that the woman, wanted to be raped. I don't know anybody on the planet who wants to be raped. So my mom struggled, not with me. My mom struggled with her mother, struggled with the doctor, struggled with society. All she wanted to do was to give birth to her baby. But society said, "No, we don't want that. That thing's a monster. It's going to grow up to be just like the rapist." I don't know. If you had a criminal father, would you want to be like that person? No. We have choices. I am not my parents. I am me, just like you are. Everybody gets a choice to be either good or bad. I chose good. I know 100 people conceived in rape. All of them are contributing to society just like anybody else. They've chosen to be a firefighter. They have chosen to be in the military. I know a piano teacher. I know a singer, entertainer, a mayor. There are so many different people, and we don't have a marking on us that says 666. We're just like everybody else. A lot of times people will say, "Well, you wanted to." This is not the, I'm preaching to the choir here, I know that. But sometimes the choir needs to have stronger voice, right?
That's right.
So the choir director will come in and just kind of tweak just a little bit. And I hope that after you hear my suggestions, my evidence, that you will be able to take what I've shown you and spread that. That you go to your lawmakers and you defend all life. Because all life was created in the image of God, and without God, no life can be. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't go, "Oh my goodness, look at that rapist, he just made a baby." That's impossible. And if rapists were able to create babies like that, don't you think that every barren woman would be knocking at his door? Right? Forget your doctor. Rapist number 45 are ready over here. You know, that's just, we are not thinking. Logic has left the planet. like what Adrian was talking about. We literally are losing logic. People aren't able to think anymore. And I'm talking to a crowd that probably still has their brains engaged. Yes? Love it. My mom was forced to place me for adoption. And she prayed for 48 years that she could see me again. Because what happened was, I was in an agency that was for unwed mothers. So she was not supposed to see me, but there was an older woman that came in and snuck me in for her to see me for 2 weeks. And so afterwards, she was, she was sent back to her home, and I was adopted at 3 months. The woman who had snuck me in to see her took a picture of me and gave it to my mother and said, "Your little girl is going to be okay. She's got wonderful parents." Well, when I was adopted, my parents wanted to have a boy. But the lady came out holding, this is the story my dad told, which I was a daddy's girl till the day he died. And I'm being held this way, my face this way. So she walks in the door and she's holding me like this. And my dad said, "That's it, she's mine." And he just dived into me and grabbed me, and basically it was a fight between my mom and my dad to hold me. I'm not unwanted. Right. Never was unwanted, because even if nobody on the planet wanted me, I was wanted by God. Each and every one of us has a purpose that is beyond this world. And I say, if God can use me, He can use you. My purpose, when I asked God, because it was very traumatic to find out in 2003 that I was that I was rape conceived, because I'd gone back to the adoption agency. And at that point, I was ready to commit suicide. It was just so bad. But I was a Christian, and I couldn't do it. So I asked God, what is this all about? Could you have done this? Did you really make me? And He said, I heard Him audibly. I know that's going to freak some people out, but I heard Him audibly. And He said, I have placed you in the camp of the enemy to glorify my name. What? Wow, that changes everything. I know who I am. I am wanted. And the thing is that at the beginning, God was the only one who wanted me here. Woohoo! Even more power to get out there and, But every one of us is here to glorify God, to defend life that was created in His image. So, when you look at the mirror and you go, oh, it's not what I wanted. If you take a step and it's not exactly how you wanted to walk, just know that there is a God in heaven who created you personally. Wow! Personally? He creates the entire universe, but He knows us by name. He knows every hair that's on our head, or not on our head. He knows. He knows us. And He loved us so much. I know that love. And so I want people to know that love. I want people to be empowered to defend who He loves. The gift that comes through a woman that's called a baby is never a mistake. God doesn't say in the Bible that, oh, whoops, that one's a mistake, that one's an exception, that one's not good. No, what God says about all of us, we are a blessing. Now we just need to live up to it. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to live up to the gift that God has given me. So, a lot of people that I talk to who are liberals, who don't quite get that the life inside is called a baby, and they want an excuse to murder that baby, those people are hard to talk to because they're going to give all kinds of excuses, and then they tell me, oh, sure, you want to live, but what about your mother's choice? I have something for you too. And if we can play the video, I'd like for you to hear what my mother had to say. I brought a little camera that she's in a nursing home. Hang on one second. She was in a nursing home. I had a ministry to go to South Africa to speak to rape victims, and I was going to be gone for about 3 weeks. I knew she couldn't come with me. She was in a wheelchair in a nursing home. So I said, Mom, can you just say something so I can take your message with me? And I held the camera up to her. This is in a nursing home. There was no pre-warning. There was no let's practice. There was none of that. This is the first and only video of her speaking, and I couldn't even see her because I took this crying. I couldn't see her because of the tears in my eyes. And so here's what she had to say.
I went to see the movie Ten Commandments late on that evening, and on the way home, which was around midnight, I had to walk home because the people I worked for partied too much and couldn't drive. So I walked home, which was about 8 blocks. And when I got close to home, there was a used car lot, and there were 8 men in there, and they grabbed me and attacked me. And I made it home after they attacked me and beat me up and did a few other things. And then when I got home, I didn't say anything to Sarah and Russ until the next morning, and I told them I was quitting. And went home to Jackson, Mississippi. And at that time, I didn't know I was pregnant. Well, 3 months later, I found out I was. And my parents didn't want me to have the baby, let alone keep it. But I didn't believe in destroying her, so I had her, and they forced me to give her up. And a year and a half ago, she looked me up, and we've been close ever since. I love her with all my heart. And you ladies of the world, you don't have to abort your babies. You can give them up for adoption if you don't want them, or you're forced to give them up. Give them away. Don't abort them. The baby is alive from time of conception on. So please, in God's name, keep them. Don't abort. Thank you, and God bless everybody.
She said, I was raped by 8 men while walking home from seeing the 10 Commandments. And I just burst out crying. I put my head in her lap, and she says, she pats me and she says, honey, don't cry. I've forgiven those men. And look what God has done. He's brought you back to me. God is faithful.
Hospital, and she's pregnant. At 11, they called me. And I'm for, if a girl gets pregnant, obviously God thinks she can carry. People don't get that. She might have a little trouble, but so do other women. But this girl didn't have any troubles at all. 11-year-old, she gave birth naturally. She did not have any problems, except because I help these girls and I post what I'm doing, not necessarily giving names or any identifying information, where they're at or anything. I said on Facebook that I was helping an 11-year-old, and I got 8,000 negative comments. Not just negative. We're talking, I wish they would kill the mother, I wish they would kill the baby, the grandmother. I even had to report to the police. Somebody in McKinney, Texas was going to come out here and open a can of WTF on me. And another woman said, we need to go down there. No, what she said was that she was going to murder me. Her words. Showed the police and was like, whatever. This is the kind of thing that we have to deal with. Choices for Life is 6 years old this month. We have help from 11 years old all the way to 42. I guarantee you it's the same story over and over and over and over. People think people like me ought to be dead. I love talking to people and just getting their opinions. So what do you think about in cases of rape?
Oh, I think they ought to just get rid of that monster thing. Ugh, who would want that thing? It's just a reminder of what that woman went through, and you couldn't possibly want to do that.
So you think I should die? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? We aren't talking about you. Yeah, you are. What? I was conceived in gang rape. The blood just... They're looking at me going, oops, let me step out of it. Because what's the problem here is that people do not take rape conceived to look like a human with flesh. We're real people. We're not just a name. And like I was telling Betty earlier, I hope that one day saying exceptions will be as horrendous as saying the N-word. Because when you're talking about exceptions in a casual conversation, there's probably somebody standing beside you, listening. And it hurts. You know, I don't hurt anymore. I don't identify necessarily with that, except that I'm a speaker for people like me and my mother. But as far as feeling like I am that person, a rape conceived person, that's something that happened way long time ago. And another thing, how many people would like to be executed for a crime that you weren't even on the planet at the time of the crime? I wasn't there. Wasn't even there when it happened. But yet, I get the penalty of execution? Nobody wants that. And so, what can you do? One, you can tell anybody and everybody that you know. Tell them the story. Go to choicesforlife.org. See all the other faces. See all the other lives. Because when you say, I believe in exceptions, let's just go ahead and say it. I believe in murdering innocent people in the womb. You know, and there was this one lady that I met, wonderful lady. You know, she was proactive, trying to defend life with incremental laws. And when she heard my story and she came to me, she said, Juda, if we don't have exceptions, we won't be able to pass laws. Hello, people. Our goal is not to pass laws. Our goal is to bring righteousness on the land. Our goal is to defend the life of all innocent people from conception to the grave. And so, tell the stories. Take people, post on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, everywhere that you have an opportunity to share the story. Please share the story. Then, if you have an opportunity to share with lawmakers, get information, because I've got free information. Here's a wonderful video. It's an hour-long video, and it's called Pro-Life Without Exceptions. This video is a myth buster. How many people watch Mythbusters? So this will give you ammunition like nuclear weapon, because everything that you can think of in case of anencephalic, ectopic, rape, you name it, failure to thrive, everything. Our society has a death culture. If they don't get you in the beginning, they're going to try and get you at the end. I don't want anything natural. And so this is ammunition. This is a DVD of a pastor. He was conceived in rape. This man has led thousands to Christ. This story will blow you away. It's free. It's out there. Brochures, also free. Please help me get the message out, because it is so hard. I never imagined. We got started with this Choices for Life is because I asked God. There's so many hurting people that are being treated like trash, and it's not even their fault. Why? Can't you do something about it? Don't ask God that. Oh, seems like a lot of y'all did. Because God says, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, everybody, yeah. If you know God, you know He said that. So I started Choices for Life. And we need help. We need volunteers. We need prayer. If you can just pray for us every time you think about it, pray for us. No exceptions. Because you know, how many people would like somebody to save your life if you needed it? Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of people right now who are just, they can't even beg you because their voice is silenced. They need your help. You can literally make a difference. Thank you, Betty, for allowing me to share that story, because every time I get to share the story, there's at least one person who has that same story. And they can't come out. Why is it that they have to be put to shame, but the rapist is running free? We're messed up. We are so messed up. And so, if you get in contact with me, I can send you a free audio version of my book, just for listening to me. I want to thank you very, very much. God bless you.
You probably have questions.
Yes. Any questions? Anything? There's no such thing as a bad question or no off-limit anything. Yes, sir.
I don't really have a question, but when you said, when you were talking about these people who, thought that you should have been exterminated, it was kind of interesting because about 25 years ago, back in '89, I decided I was going to get involved with the rescue movement over in Austin. So I went over there, and we were, going to stand in front of the abortion chamber door and go to jail, which we did. But I first went in there, the very first time I was in this room, a bunch of women in there, and I just kind of walked in and I said something to the effect that, we'll probably get this all taken care of, we'll put an end to abortion and we'll get her done. Except, well, we'll probably have to, accept a few exceptions, like the usual, and then there was this voice from the back of the room. Said, well, I guess you think that my daughter should be killed. I said, what? No, and I was completely tongue-tied. Couldn't, I just was, and I never again, ever came up with, we might have to accept some exceptions.
Thank you.
But that really kind of rang a bell with me when you said that.
You know what? One thing I forgot that is very, 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 very important to tell you is that how many people know when the very first abortion law was passed in the United States?
73.
No.
66.
No.
Armand Hammer's father went to prison for committing an abortion in
I should say the legal one.
1890s. So that's an abortion law.
Legal.
Oh,
The first law passed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Legalizing?
Legal. That first law in American soil.
It was
American
in
soil.
New York, wasn't it?
It wasn't.
I don't know.
It wasn't quite that far back. Okay, I'm going to tell you. And it just so happened to be in the very place where I was 10 years earlier, and my mom was fighting for my own life. So it was 1966, because she was pregnant in 56, gave birth in 57. So at the very same place, because God said, go and look up the first law. So I did. It's 1966 on Mother's Day. Mother's Day. How about a big slap and spit in God's face, right? So on Mother's Day, men left their wives and mothers and go down on a Sunday to pass a law that says any woman can have an abortion if she says rape. You don't have to have any evidence. You don't have anything. Just say rape. Here's the rape card. I'd like an abortion. And so that was in 1966. So fast forward 7 years, and this is going to mean a lot to people who are Christians. Jackson, Mississippi. So for 7 years, Satan continued. Man, he was just looking around. Hey, nobody's stopping me. So we're going to go to Colorado and Hawaii and New York, and then we're going to go to California, and then we're going to go here and there and there. So at the end of 7 years was 1973. And in 1973, there were 19 states that had said, you know, that's a great idea. We're going to make our own rape card. Abortion cases of rape. That sounds real good. So 19 states. But in 1973, 7 years, God said, I'm going to give them over to a reprobate mind, and I'm going to allow them to have the desires of their heart. That's when we got Roe v. Wade. And what was it? Foundation? What was its foundation? Was rape. One more time. Because Norma McCorvey lied and said she was raped. Well, not only did she wasn't raped, but she went on to give birth to her baby. Thank God she's accepted Christ now, but that's a heavy burden. So here we are in May 8th of 2016. 50 years. Guess what? It landed on Mother's Day one more time. And God had told me to go around and march around that Capitol in Jackson, Mississippi. So I got 8 women. I couldn't get any more. 8 women came and stood on the Capitol steps and were honored because they chose life for their rape-conceived babies. We had protesters, choice protesters. And so I'm like, choice protesters, are you serious? Why aren't you cheering these women for their choice? You're not about choice, you're about murder. Well, when I said that, there were 10 of them. 4 of them left. Yes. So then I had wanted a lot of people to come. A lot of people couldn't come. So I asked somebody, I was like, I hope we get at least 50 people. Well, they turned out, they came, and this guy said, we have 70 people with us. How many know that's a nice number? It's a biblical number. So we got 8 moms. We have 70 in the year of Jubilee. I don't know if anybody knows about God's year of Jubilee. It was in the year of Jubilee. So I'm hoping and praying we don't need 50 more years. Cross your arms and say, hey, buddy, if you don't vote the way we want you to vote, you're out.
Amen.
We need to lock arms and just say no more. So there's more ammo for you. Yes.
In thinking about life and law and letter of the law and spirit of the law, except for cases of rape and abortion, incest, real easy. They're words. They come real easily snappy. It's kind of, then you don't have to worry about thinking about it anymore. And then a few years ago, a woman came on television and said, I was a product of rape, and she went on to explain about her rich life. And you are here in person. I can't dismiss you as the words and thoughts. It's the reality of you being here. Now, the reason I came primarily, besides to hear a good testament, you mentioned you know a whole lot of people, hundreds of ladies who were products of rape, and they all wanted to live. They're glad they're alive. Has there ever been a product of rape that did not want to be alive and was mad or angry, and how do you handle that?
Good question. Okay, let's address the product of rape. And I was doing the same thing, right? We're not products. Because if you can call something a product, you can dispose of it. So that was that one technique that the devil used when Christ says that we are humans made in his image. But Satan says, oh, why don't you call those guys products? Then you can throw them away. Products. So, can you promise me nobody's ever going to say product of rape again? Thank you for bringing that up, because I forgot. There's so many things, man. I tell you, I could just... So anyway, product of rape. I want that to be a inward as well. Yes, sir.
What do you want to?
Oh, okay. Just conceived in rape. Rape conceived person.
You didn't answer his question. Was there anybody?
Yes, yes. There have been, and out of the, actually it's more than 100, but I made a poster with 100 faces, but there were 2 people. And it's very, very strange that these 2 people didn't believe in God. That was like eye-opening to me. One person hated her life, and so she believed what the world had to say about her. But when a person, I don't care how you were conceived, if you believe the lie that you're worthless, you're ugly, you'll never amount to anything, and if somebody's fed that into your life all your life, and you want to believe it, you will not want to live.
You're born in a dirty way.
Yes, you won't want to live. But there were 2 of them that hated their lives. One was in Germany, and the other was here. But it was because they didn't know. And then there was one person like on the fence, didn't really like herself, and then she got saved.
But the people who didn't like their lives, they didn't commit suicide. They were still alive to be
Yeah.
adults.
They were still alive.
That little bit of intellectual
In the
dishonesty.
dark zone, yes. And let me give you the statistics, at least my statistics, on the people who aborted rape conceived children. Let me tell you that it is far worse for a woman after rape to abort a child than it is for a woman who just slept around and abort. Because this one woman told me, she was a police officer and she had been raped. And she said, you know, Judah, I know the difference in right and wrong. I know what the law is. I know that the rapist, they beat me up, they raped me, but I'm alive. But I turned around and I committed murder against my own flesh and blood. Ooh. And then for years I tried to convince her that she, through Christ, is forgiven. And I want everybody to know that. You can be forgiven in Christ. But she wouldn't accept it. She was a Christian, but she couldn't accept Christ's forgiveness, which is an oxymoron.
One of my favorite scriptures is from a dear friend who was a pastor and a chaplain and godfather and priest who married us. Nothing can keep you from the love of God. Period.
Except you. Except you. Yes, sir.
All right, there's 2 of them that didn't want to live. A woman who's going to be raped is going to be angry. How many children are raised by those raped women, and that anger carries over to the child, where in your case it's obvious you were immediately grabbed by love and therefore didn't go through that. Is there any truth to that?
Great question. There are some women who also believe the lie that this is, you know, the reason why you're miserable. But the majority of women, they actually said that the baby brought life to them when they were dead. They were dead. They wanted to die because of the rape. But then they find out that there's a baby growing, her baby. And it completely changes them. Listen, our entire life is about how we think. If you get it, if you understand God, if you understand your purpose, you're good to go. Whatever you've been through. A friend of mine, pastor, his last name's Muck, and I joke preaching at his church because look what God's done with the Muck and the Myers. And so, Pastor Muck grew up in an orphanage. His 2 sisters were both split and sent to adoptive homes that were wealthy. He decided he didn't want to go. He was raped, he was abused, anything you can think of, it was done to that man. And people would say, oh, it would be better for him never to have been born. Somebody should have aborted him. Look, you're not a child for the rest of your life. Pastor Muck has passed that a long time ago. Last time I counted, he had 25. Do you know him, Sherry? Mm-hmm. Last time I counted, he had 25 grandchildren. How many he has now?
A lot.
He had 8 children. He was a happy man, and he was bringing life and happiness and joy to all people he met. His sisters, not so much. They got everything they wanted, as far as I know. And they never accepted Christ. I don't know if they have now. This is a few years ago. So life is about what you make it. And if we can help people to understand the truth, and that's what I need you guys to do. Anybody else? Questions?
Were Christ's ancestors the product of rape? Right? Right?
What did he say wrong? No. Consider yourself hugged.
No, Perez.
It's hard. Yes, Perez.
Perez.
Yes. Now it's hard to get that out because it's been indoctrinated
And
in
I
us.
don't use that term. I don't know why I said
It happens.
I don't
It was
use
happening to me.
I don't use that term, and that term right around good.
Yes, Sherry.
But one thing I've noticed, even with children, unborn babies, the elderly and the disabled, if we as loving human Christian people, if we don't get involved and show these people there is something else out there besides what they are experiencing, we're not going to be able to change nothing. It's going to be up to us to get involved on a one-on-one level.
You know, I tell people, they say, because I was conceived in rape, I'm going to turn out to be a monster. Hitler had a mother who was Catholic, had married parents. Does it matter? Choices. It's choices. And mine is choices for life. His was choice for death. And, you know, he had the great little bubble. So it is not about your conception. Has anyone ever filled out any kind of form that said, how were you conceived? Has anybody gone to give blood? And had anybody asked you, yes, how were you conceived?
Are you serious?
Nobody cares. I have O negative blood. Does anybody know what that is?
Rare.
Call me. Universal donor. I don't think anybody on a deathbed is going to say, excuse me, is that rapist blood on me? Come on. Of course not. Logic, people. I know you've got it. Hang on to it because the liberals are trying to rip it out of our brains. So hang on to it. Any other questions? Like I said, we could go all night. But if you really want to know how you can help me, how you can help these women and children, call me. I would love. Yes, sir.
I have one question because I sat down and didn't hear all the questions. But it's just on the legislative thing. You know, Dr. Ron Paul says that we could end Roe versus Wade tomorrow if the Congress took the jurisdiction for rape away from the Supreme Court. It could be ended tomorrow.
There's still the Hyde Amendment, which Trump is saying is going to be an eternity. So we need to talk about that.
But so that wouldn't be effective, you mean?
The Hyde Amendment says that in cases of rape, you're free to, go ahead and kill the baby.
Oh, so that can be eliminated.
We hope. I mean, the Hyde Amendment's been there forever, and Trump said, gotta have it, gotta have it.
Well, what my point of the question was, it's just about the right for life groups and that always endorsing Republican incumbents that say they're pro-life. And so we never flush them out of the system because they're liars. Basically.
You want to hear a secret since you kind of lifted up that table skirt? We saw what was underneath the table. I went lobbying in Louisiana for a bill so that Senator LaBrusso at the time wanted a bill that would end all abortion. No ifs, ands, buts, nothing. Straight up, no abortions, period. Do you know who was fighting him? Louisiana Right to Life. The Catholic Family Forum. So when I stood and talked to the president, and he's like 6'4", so I'm looking at him going, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're supposed to be wanting to end abortion. And it's not the right time, and it's going to cost money, and it's going to... And all of a sudden, it's like, I didn't hear anything else, and everything went blank. And the Lord says, in my ear, I heard him. The Lord said, when abortion ends, they lose their jobs. What?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to hear that. What? Yeah, think about it. Would you really be working to end your job? The National Right to Life actually told me twice on the phone, after me telling them who I was, They told me they had to have exceptions and they weren't going to get rid of them. They ousted Georgia Right to Life because Georgia Right to Life suddenly got a clue and said, hey, we don't want exceptions anymore either. So they ousted their affiliation with Georgia Right to Life because Georgia Right to Life would not sacrifice the rape-conceived child anymore. That's what we're up against. Wow. That's what we're really up against.
Right.
So I need more people than you would even imagine.
It's really a 10th Amendment state issue.
It's a heart issue.
Well, I mean, but as far as laws and stuff, the federal government has no business in it.
No, it shouldn't
No,
be a
but the
federal issue.
Supreme
It should be
Court-
because we don't want to sell out.
Supreme Court can't make laws. We sucked up to them. We allowed them to do it. I don't know how we stopped this, but judges don't get to make laws. Congress makes laws. But now it's any judge for any reason, for anything. He just decides what he wants.
The Supreme Court sets a precedent, so the Congress acts upon it.
So, anyways, thank you very much. Yes.
Well, I did want to address this whole issue, but I hear there's a lot in the right to life kind of circles about this whole issue. Let's just send it back to the states. But that is a very dangerous thing because it is our inalienable right to life. And we in Texas might very quickly move to protect life.
No, we
But
won't
what
because
about
Roe v.
selling-
Wade was here.
Well, I'm just saying, let's just say hypothetically, that there'll be some states that would move quickly. But is it right then for us to sell out the poor little kids in California or New York and say, you know, well, that's gonna go on those states? That's why it is a federal issue. It is a inalienable right issue.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be settled for everybody for all time.
What I'd like to see is get rid of Roe v. Wade, overturn it, get rid of the freedom of access to clinics law. That's the law that makes it a federal felony to stand in front of the abortion chamber. Get rid of those two things, and then you'll have to go 1,000 miles from where we are now to get a legal abortion. But that's where you converge on those places, and you rescue them in waves until they're completely destroyed. And then they'll come around to your way of thinking, because abortion deserves to go down hard, harder than slavery ever went down,
Exactly.
because it's 10 times worse.
Exactly. Well, thank you so very much. Like I said, if you want, yes, sir?
I just got a comment. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This is a Christian nation, and when it comes to abortion, there are a lot of convoluted arguments out there. Many people get confused and think that babies come from having sex. Sex is the channel, but God is the source. Little children are a heritage of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is His reward. There's a lot of sex going on. All sex don't produce babies. Another answer to the convoluted argument is as it relates to rape. You know, two concerns here. First of all, who are we to decide who gets to live, who doesn't get to live? We're playing God.
Yes, indeed.
That's number one.
Yes, sir.
Number two, who in here ever chose their parents?
That's right.
So again, it's not about, you know, sex, it's about God.
Exactly.
And God is in control of all of it. So I appreciate what you're doing,
Thank you.
fighting for the right to life. You're doing the Lord's work.
Amen.
I'm an angel in disguise, with dimpled cheeks and laughing eyes. Don't you want me? love with me. Like a flower in your care, I'm a gift so pure and fair. Don't you want me? I'm your baby, my little life. Please don't abort. Let me live. Don't cut me short. Mother, keep me. I'm your baby. Oh, mother, let me live. Don't take away my life. Mother, let me live. You know it isn't right to stop me being born. I want to be yours. Oh, mother, let me live. Don't take away my life. Mother, let me live. I want to live my life. Mother, you will see when you look at me and you hold me in your arms, you'll fall in love with me. Don't take away my life. You know it isn't right to stop me being born. I want to be yours. Oh, mother, let me live. Don't take away my life. Mother, let me live. I want to live my life. Mother, you will see when you look at me and you hold me in your arms, you'll fall in love with me.